As a creator, I bet you always ask yourself, what is the quickest way to grow? Is there a quicker way to grow than you currently do? And if we boil it really down to the bare minimum, then we have two major growth strategies on YouTube. It is the search-based one and it is the suggested videos-based one. And at a certain point in a channel's life, 1,000 subscribers to several thousand subscribers, it depends what kind of channel you have. There's a time where you could switch from a search-based to a suggested videos-based growth strategy. That would then be the quicker way to grow for you. However, both strategies are so incompatible that it creates a really big hurdle for you. The gap that I refer to in the thumbnail. I actually took 1.5 years to figure out a solution for that. And I will explain to you this solution in the second half of the video. However, I need to explain you the background first so that you have a true understanding of what the problem really is. Until summer 2020, the de facto standard to grow your channel was YouTube SEO, a search-based growth strategy. You know it, YouTube SEO is really well understood. We have precise steps to follow in order to grow a channel from zero based on ranking in search, right? But then, summer 2020, Derral Eves published a new online course that made the waves in the YouTube creator space. What Derral teaches us is a purely suggested videos-based growth strategy. And of course, along with the launch of his course, he published many videos, shared his thoughts, his kind of new thinking that he had. And that made the wave in the creator space because people actually understood him. They thought that he would say that YouTube search is not important anymore. Even Derral Eves had to respond to that later on and say that he doesn't care about YouTube search because he has a purely suggested videos-based growth strategy. He does not need search for that. It's not that search is bad. YouTube search and YouTube SEO remains to date a very good growth strategy. Only that it is not the only growth strategy anymore. And he wanted to emphasize, well, he doesn't need search anymore. But since people misunderstood him and thought search was not important anymore, all the YouTube tips people out there, me included, tried to defend the old YouTube SEO approach because it's still valid, right? I may remember vividly, for example, Roberto Blake publishing a very long blog article about why search is so important for us. And since Derral mentioned, rightly so, that suggested videos, including home and browse by the way, so YouTube recommendation as a whole, they bring the most views to the YouTube platform. YouTube search does not bring as many views to the YouTube platform. So the thinking is, I mean, why should you focus on a smaller traffic source like search as a whole on YouTube if you can focus on suggested videos that brings so many more views? I mean, this is also again an argument that was not right because YouTube search still brings you tons of views, and especially small channels, for them it's much more than they need. So I felt as well I need to respond to that, and I made this video in which I did a data study on how many views are coming via search, are coming via home suggested videos from small to large channels, so that we have a clear picture of where the views are coming from usually. And that's of course why I can say that YouTube search remains to be lucrative. No doubt about that. And to date, the situation is this: there are many YouTube SEO fans out there, and then there are suggested videos fans out there, or YouTube recommendations as a whole. So when you get YouTube tips, you either fall into the category of getting search-based tips or the category of getting suggested videos-based tips. However, search-based, so YouTube SEO, is crisp clear. We exactly know how we need to do YouTube SEO step by step to make it successful, even for small channels. And we also can teach it very precisely. This is very well known how to do that. However, on the other side, suggested videos based growth strategies are not at all as well understood as YouTube SEO. It is by far not as clear which steps we need to take in order to get more views from suggested videos, for example. And also, it is unclear how we can best teach these steps to especially new creators. This is a completely different story for the suggested videos there. The advice that is already out there mainly boils down to we need high click-through rates, we need high watch time, and we need to create great videos. But I mean, this alone is really not enough to know what you need to do in order to trigger YouTube's recommendations, suggested videos, and home, these algorithms, right? We actually need to make this kind of new growth strategy as crisp clear as YouTube SEO, and that is not the case yet. Well, for example, Daniel Bertal, I as well, we both tried to make it more crisp clear in a sense that we developed strategies in order to trigger the suggested videos algorithm. It's mainly based for both of us. We did it independently, but we have similar thinking there. For both of us, we focused on binge watching videos. So making our viewers binge watch our videos, and that can trigger the suggested videos algorithm. By the way, here is a presentation from Daniel Bertal, which is really a cornerstone here. I actually linked you to his presentation on the TubeBuddy channel, even though I invited him to my channel as well, because this presentation I just linked in the card is a true gem. It really explains a very fundamental understanding about it very clearly. But then again, we have to say, even though everyone tries, the only person I know who really knows in a crisp, clear way how to trigger the suggested videos algorithm, this second growth strategy as a whole, is Derral Eves. It's really like this, please prove me wrong. At least in the English space, I don't know anyone who knows the precise growth strategy and also, of course, shares it publicly. Well, the closest thing you can get to tapping into Derral's knowledge is his book, or at least watching his videos that he published summer 2020 when he announced his online course. So right now the reality is that when we want to grow our channels based on the suggested videos, then it is a good chunk of trial and error, because we just cannot learn precise steps as we can learn them from YouTube SEO at the moment. I am, of course, in the process of developing these precise steps, namely, for example, the niche tool that I'm currently developing. This will be really a big step forward, but what we are currently facing is what I call the gap. So when you are a small to a large channel, at the beginning when you are small, it's a good idea to focus on YouTube search as your growth strategy. By the way, Think Media, for example, does an excellent job of teaching that. And they are the biggest fan of YouTube search. They focus on that and that only. Because I agree with them. YouTube search is so well understood that it can be well taught to new creators. Small channels can use it. It is a growth strategy that is working nicely and easily for small channels. So YouTube search is a very good choice. Even if we are in the future in the situation that suggested videos growth strategies are crisp, clear as well, YouTube search remains to be, for multiple reasons, the growth strategy that is most dependable at the beginning when you're starting out as a small channel. So when you're a small channel, around 1,000 subscribers, somewhere beyond that, you find this gap. The gap you have to bridge in order to start using the suggested videos growth strategy. The reason why I show the suggested videos strategy here at a point where you're already a larger channel, the exact point depends on your niche and all that. The reason is that suggested videos growth strategies require a little bit more that is not available right in the beginning. In particular, you need active subscribers who actively watch your videos in a bigger cohort so that you can actively trigger the suggested videos algorithm. It's rooted basically in how those algorithms work on YouTube. And that is usually the case. That's also the study that I mentioned earlier in the card, is that the natural progression is you started with YouTube search that works early on, then YouTube home kicks in, and later suggested videos. And of course, we want to have suggested videos kick in much sooner with a precise growth strategy for suggested videos. But the natural progression is like this for good reasons. Of course, you can, if you want, with a channel that has no videos up yet, 0 subscribers, use the suggested videos growth strategy. In theory, I mean, I don't know exactly what Derral Eves is teaching, but I know that he has the steps to make it successful by skipping YouTube search, so to say. He is able, with the first video on a channel, to use YouTube SEO to bootstrap getting the first audiences to the channel, and then he immediately switches to the pure suggested videos strategy that then does not need YouTube search anymore. So basically he jumps from this strategy to this strategy after the first video. However, the state of the art of growing YouTube channels is not there yet, and that is where the gap kicks in. So at a certain point, after you successfully grew your channel with YouTube search, you can transition into the suggested videos and that way make your channel growth even faster. But there is this gap because both strategies clash. Let me explain you what the clashing is here. When we are looking at YouTube SEO, in the end, what we need in order to have a video successfully ranking in search is a video title and a video description that are both optimized for the search engine. So video title and description. For the suggested video strategy, we need a thumbnail and a video title to produce high click-through rates. That is the most important part, besides having long watch time and just great videos, where, by the way, the devil is in the details. Having great videos means really having great videos. This is a craft by itself. But anyway, that's, by the way, not as stringent for YouTube search and hence an easier way to tap into for small channels. So suggested videos need thumbnail and video title. YouTube SEO needs video title and video description. So they both need the video title. And that is where they clash. Of course, we all know how YouTube search-based titles look like. But how is it about suggested videos, growth strategy, related titles? Let me give you an example. Actually, here is a video from Veritasium, which is really, I think, the Bible about video titles. He explains it so well there. Check it out later on. But let me give you an excerpt out of it. What he explained there is how to write video titles for big success. And his example here, a video about asteroids, at first he had a title, Asteroids, Earth's Biggest Threat. The problem was, with this title, his video performed way worse than their usual videos. You see the gray band here, like in YouTube Studio. It was a 10 out of 10. And of course he knew a title has an impact, and hence he tried out other titles. For example, Asteroid Impact, What Could We Do? But still, the video didn't really perform well. But then he invented this title, and these are the asteroids to worry about. And suddenly, his video skyrocketed. You see how the gray band here, it blazed past the gray band, became a 1 out of 10, and really exploded. As you can see here, that was the beginning. And now he has millions and millions of views on this video, just by changing the thumbnail as well in this case, but also the title. And the title is super important here. Problem though is, if you look at the title, let's go back here. This is by far not a SEO optimized title. As you can understand, you need a lot of creativity here to write those titles. You need freedom to be creative, to write a title that is enticing enough to make people click the video. The high click-through rate, remember, for the suggested videos, you need a crazy high click-through rate. And the title is such a big influence that we need the freedom to write those enticing video titles. So let's do a small thought experiment. I used Morning Fame's keyword research tool here, and it turns out asteroids approaching Earth is a search term that we could optimize this video for. Let's zoom in a bit. So what the standard SEO video title would be is asteroids approaching Earth, very dangerous. You know, we use the search term at the beginning and then add a little bit in order to improve the click-through rate. But what would you say? Is this whole title so enticing that you would click? I mean, certainly his title that he actually used is much more enticing. So the YouTube SEO rules that we had until recently were too strict to give us the freedom so that we optimize our video titles for YouTube search so the video can rank, and at the same time be creative enough so that we get a high click-through rate to also trigger the suggested videos algorithm. This is the conflict. And what that means is, because of the conflict, you have to basically jump off a cliff. Yeah? So basically in the beginning, you grow your channel with YouTube search, you do a lot of SEO video titles, and then you want to transition at a certain point to suggested videos. And now you need to write creative video titles. But until recently, we didn't know how to write those video titles for SEO and suggested videos at the same time. So what you needed to do is jump off this cliff, abandon YouTube SEO titles, and start doing suggested videos type titles. But of course, as I said in the beginning, the problem is we don't understand a suggested videos based growth strategy as crisp, clear as YouTube SEO. It is and remains to be trial and error. So if you decide to start doing video titles for the suggested videos algorithm, you abandon YouTube SEO and risk tanking your videos, because suggested videos is most likely trial and error for you. And then this new strategy doesn't work, but you abandoned the already working, dependable growth strategy of YouTube search. And therefore you suddenly have videos that don't work either way. Yeah, you don't have YouTube search anymore, and suggested videos doesn't start working for you yet, because you really have to figure it out first, and that takes time without crisp, clear steps to do so, right? If we would have them in the future, then it would be a different story, but that's really not the case at the moment. All right, so here's the solution. As you know, recently I published the information about a data study that I did where I reverse engineered the YouTube search algorithm. And it turns out the YouTube SEO rules, in particular for how to optimize your video titles that we had until recently, were too strict. Actually, the YouTube search algorithm turns out to be more lenient than we thought, and I was able to uncover new YouTube SEO rules that give us much more freedom. So back to the example here, the asteroids approaching Earth, very dangerous, is the YouTube SEO title in the old style, but we have more freedom. And with the new rules, that means, here I give an example, these are the asteroids to worry approaching Earth, very similar to the one that Veritasium used. And here we have asteroids approaching Earth, that's our search term, included. The tool tells us with an A grade, it's still optimized very well to have a good chance to rank. That is important here. Back then, of course, may have made sense to have a video title like this, but we didn't know if that is enough to actually have a good chance to rank. Well, now we know, based on the reverse engineering data study that I did, we now see crystal clear here in the tool, this kind of title is good enough for YouTube search because it contains the search term in a certain way, but also it is as creative as the title that Veritasium used in order to jumpstart, finally to make his video so successful that it blew his mind. That means the YouTube SEO search-based growth strategy and then the gap to the suggested videos growth strategy. You know, this gap, it doesn't exist anymore, because as you can see here in this example, we have a video title, the one point where both strategies clash, right? We can have video titles that combine both the high click-through rate as well as the SEO for both growth strategies. So you don't abandon YouTube search anymore when you want to start using suggested videos based growth strategies. You can still depend with one leg, you still stand in the YouTube search space, you ensure that your video is ranking, but at the same time, your video titles start to become more creative, more enticing to click, higher click-through rate, and you start trying out how you can make the suggested videos strategy work for you without jumping off a cliff, so to say. And of course, the big question now is, well, here are the full rules that I uncovered that give you the freedom. You have nothing to lose. You can do your SEO very well and at the same time start trying out triggering the suggested videos algorithm. Cheers, my friends.